The mistake most men make is waiting for a woman to state her feelings in a grand, dramatic speech. They expect a cinematic declaration of love or a sudden, obvious confession. But human psychology, especially female psychology, rarely works that way. Deep emotional connection is a quiet force, and women communicate their truest feelings through subtle, almost invisible shifts in what they choose to share with you. When a woman begins to peel back the layers of her inner world, she isn't just making conversation. She is granting you exclusive access to a private space that the rest of the world never gets to see. It is a silent, deliberate process of testing the waters to see if you are strong and attentive enough to handle her reality. Understanding this distinction changes everything because it allows you to see past temporary surface level attraction. True attraction can be easily faked. It is driven by excitement, novelty, and the superficial thrill of the chase. It burns bright and fades fast. But when a woman consciously decides to let you into her internal world, you are no longer dealing with a fleeting crush. You are witnessing the birth of a deep emotional commitment, a psychological alignment where she begins to view you as a permanent anchor in her life. She stops presenting the heavily polished, curated version of herself and starts revealing the raw elements of her everyday existence. This transformation does not happen overnight, and it never happens by accident. It is a privilege reserved strictly for the man who has proven, through his consistency and presence, that he has earned her absolute trust. Most men pass through a woman's life without ever breaking past her initial defenses, completely blind to the fact that they are being kept at arm's length. By understanding the specific markers of psychological safety, you separate yourself from the crowd. You stop guessing where you stand and begin to read her behavior with absolute clarity. Over the next few minutes, we are going to break down the five distinct, undeniable things a woman only shares with the man who has won her heart. We will strip away the fluff and look directly at the behavioral triggers that dictate high value relationships. Each step represents a deeper layer of intimacy, moving from simple conversational shifts to profound admissions of vulnerability. Pay close attention to how these signs build upon one another, because by the time we reach the final point, you will understand the exact, definitive moment her psychological guard drops entirely, leaving no doubt that you have become the most important man in her world. To truly understand the depth of a woman's interest, you have to realize that almost every single person walks through the world wearing a carefully crafted mask. Social media, professional settings, and casual interactions demand that we present a polished, curated version of ourselves. People hide their rough edges, their strange habits, and their erratic thoughts because they fear judgment and rejection. When a woman is just casually dating or keeping you at a distance, she will maintain this protective barrier. She will text you the correct responses, say the polite things, and keep the conversation firmly within safe, conventional boundaries. She wants to ensure she looks flawless in your eyes, which means you are only getting the rehearsed version of her mind. The real shift happens the exact moment she feels genuinely safe in your presence. When that psychological safety is established, the polished mask dissolves entirely, and her mental boundaries drop. She stops trying to sound perfect and begins sharing her raw, unfiltered, and unedited thoughts. This means she will text you the completely random, bizarre observations that pop into her head at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. She will call you to vent about her late night worries, her minor irrational anxieties, and the raw opinions she would never dare utter to her coworkers or casual friends. She stops filtering her words for your approval because her subconscious mind has already decided that you are a safe harbor where she will not be ridiculed or misunderstood. This transition is the purest form of raw psychological vulnerability. It is an internal admission that she no longer feels the need to protect herself from you. Her brain is literally associating your voice and your presence with comfort and relief. When she exposes her messy, unedited thoughts, she is handing you a massive piece of emotional currency. She is showing you the chaotic, beautiful, and authentic reality of her mind, which is something she actively conceals from the rest of the world. Most men completely misinterpret this stage. They view these random rants or sudden bursts of overthinking as mere chatter, failing to realize they have just been granted access to a woman's inner sanctuary. If you want to permanently cement this bond and deepen her attachment, you must handle this vulnerability with absolute care. The biggest mistake you can make right here is falling into the typical male trap of trying to fix, correct, or judge her thoughts. When a woman is sharing her raw mind, she is not asking you to be her life coach or a stern logic professor. If you immediately tell her why her worries are irrational, or if you try to critique her opinions, her psychological defenses will instantly slam shut. She will regret opening up, and her mind will immediately classify you as an unsafe environment. To win at this level, you must resist the urge to offer unsolicited advice. Instead, you need to master the art of active listening and emotional validation. Let her speak without interruption. Look her in the eyes and show her that you understand exactly where she is coming from. Prove to her through your calm, non judgmental presence that her raw, unpolished mind is completely secure with you. When she realizes that she can show you her truest self, flaws, anxieties, and all, and still see admiration and stability in your eyes, it creates a powerful emotional anchor. That feeling of absolute emotional safety builds a deeper, more permanent psychological attachment than any superficial compliment ever could. When a woman is building a connection with you, the way she talks about her history will undergo a massive, subtle transformation. In the beginning stages of dating, conversations about the past are almost always high level and performative. People share the resume version of their lives, the college they went to, the city they grew up in, or the major career milestones they've achieved. They might even share the big, dramatic stories, like a major breakup or a massive life transition, because those are easy, well rehearsed narratives. But when a woman truly begins to invest her heart in you, she moves past this public archive and starts sharing what can only be described as micro memories. These are the small, obscure, and seemingly insignificant pieces of her past that serve no logical purpose in a casual conversation, yet carry immense emotional weight. Instead of the grand milestones, she will suddenly begin telling you about the tiny, forgotten details that shaped her everyday childhood. She might casually mention the specific name of a favorite elementary school teacher who always encouraged her. Or she will laughingly reveal a silly, embarrassing nickname her cousins used to call her during summer vacations. She might describe a random afternoon from a decade ago when a stranger said something that permanently boosted her self confidence, or a specific, comforting smell that reminds her of her grandmother's kitchen. These are not headline grabbing stories, and they are certainly not the types of facts she would ever post on a social media profile or share with a casual acquaintance. They are the deeply buried, quiet fragments of her personal history. The reason these micro memories are so incredibly important is because they only surface when a woman feels, on a subconscious level, that her core identity is being genuinely understood by you. By sharing these small details, her mind is actively attempting to create a state of deep emotional familiarity. She isn't just killing time or making idle conversation. She is giving you the context clues to who she really is underneath the adult persona she presents to society. She is inviting you to look at the mosaic of her life through her own eyes. This is her way of testing whether you are actually paying attention to her essence or if you are just interacting with her on a superficial level like every other man she has ever met. Most men completely fail this test because they don't value the small things. They listen to these tiny stories and dismiss them as trivial chatter, waiting for her to finish speaking so they can steer the conversation back to themselves or a more exciting topic. They completely overlook the fact that these small memories are direct pathways to her emotional core. If you want to separate yourself from the crowd and build an unbreakable psychological bond, you must train yourself to hold on to these details with absolute precision. Treat these micro memories like valuable pieces of intelligence. Lock them away in your mind. Analyze what they say about her values and look for the deeper emotional themes driving them. The ultimate breakthrough happens when you bring these exact details back up naturally in future conversations. Imagine the impact when weeks or even months later, you casually reference the specific childhood pet she mentioned once in passing, or you buy her a small, inexpensive treat that perfectly connects to a childhood memory she shared. When you do this, something incredible happens in her mind. She instantly realizes that you listen to her at a level almost no one else does. It proves to her that you don't just hear her voice, but that you genuinely value her mind and her history. This realization creates a massive spike in attraction and security, signaling to her subconscious that she has finally found a high value man who truly sees her. When a relationship shifts from casual attraction to a profound psychological bond, the nature of what a woman shares about her inner struggles changes completely. Anyone will complain about obvious, everyday stresses, like a demanding boss, heavy traffic, or a busy schedule. Those are socially acceptable frustrations that require zero emotional risk to admit. A deep, exclusive level of trust is reached only when she stops venting about the external world and begins sharing her internal fears and quiet insecurities. These are the highly specific, deeply private vulnerabilities that she actively avoids telling anyone else because she refuses to appear weak, overly dependent, or flawed in the eyes of society. These quiet insecurities usually center around her deepest doubts about herself. She might confess a persistent fear of failure, a hidden feeling of inadequacy despite her outward success, or a deep seated anxiety about being abandoned or misunderstood by the people she cares about most. When she brings these things to light in front of you, it is a massive, defining moment in your connection. By revealing these emotional pressure points, she is essentially handing you the keys to a heavily locked part of her psychology. She is exposing the exact areas where she feels most fragile, trusting that you have the strength, maturity, and integrity to handle her vulnerability without using it against her or changing how you look at her value. The absolute biggest mistake most men make in this precise moment is reacting with a misplaced sense of urgency. The typical masculine instinct is to immediately jump into fix it mode. Men hear a problem or an insecurity and instantly try to solve it with aggressive logic, unsolicited advice, or dismissive reassurances, like telling her she is being irrational. While this often comes from a good place, it completely misses the psychological mark. When a woman shares a quiet insecurity, she is not looking for a mechanic to repair a broken part. She is looking for a solid anchor. If you rush to fix her or tell her how to think, her psychological defenses will instantly slam shut, making her feel exposed, judged, and deeply misunderstood. To master this level of intimacy, you must learn to do something far more powerful. You must remain entirely steady, calm, and grounded. When she exposes a fear that makes her feel weak, your emotional stability needs to act as a solid wall. Do not panic, do not get uncomfortable, and do not try to lecture her. Instead, practice absolute patience, maintain reassuring eye contact, and hold space for her words without judgment. When you respond with steady, calm acceptance, instead of pressure or frantic reassurance, something profound happens to her physiology. Her nervous system naturally begins to calm down, and her brain immediately associates your presence with absolute, unshakable safety. By remaining calm and steady, you prove to her that her darkest insecurities do not scare you, turn you off, or make you view her as weak. You show her that you are strong enough to carry the weight of her reality without buckling under the pressure. This creates a powerful biological and psychological anchor in her mind. When a woman realizes she can be completely vulnerable, drop her guard entirely, and find absolute stability and protection in your arms, her emotional attachment to you deepens faster than any romantic gesture or expensive date could ever achieve. You become her ultimate safe haven in a chaotic world. When a relationship moves into a serious, high value territory, the way a woman discusses the future undergoes a massive shift. In the early stages of dating, future talk is light, casual, and highly superficial. She might talk about a vacation she wants to take next summer, a new job she is applying for, or a city she thinks would be fun to live in for a year. These are surface level goals that are easy to share because they don't require any real emotional exposure. Anyone can talk about a career change or a trip, but when a woman truly starts to fall for you, she will completely abandon these superficial scripts and begin to reveal her actual, genuine vision for the future. This means she stops talking about what she wants to do and starts talking about who she wants to be. She will share the exact type of peace she is chasing in her personal life, the core values she wants to instill in her home, and the ultimate purpose she wants to grow into over time. She might talk about wanting a life free from chaotic drama, her desire to build a sanctuary of stability, or the legacy she wants to leave behind. This level of raw, transparent sharing is incredibly rare because it exposes her deepest desires and motivations. It only happens when her subconscious mind has silently evaluated you and categorized you as a permanent fixture in her life, rather than just a temporary visitor passing through. Without saying it out loud, she is looking at the horizon and testing to see if your footsteps align with hers. The massive mistake that almost every average man makes in this moment is turning the conversation into an ego driven competition. The second a woman starts talking about her deep dreams, the typical man feels the urge to start bragging about his own grand plans. He will interrupt her to talk about how much money he is going to make, the businesses he is going to build, or the status he is going to achieve. He does this because he thinks it makes him look powerful and attractive. In reality, it does the exact opposite. It signals to her that you aren't actually listening to her soul. You were just waiting for your turn to talk and validate your own ego. When you override her vision with your own, her psychological guard instantly goes back up, and she will quietly pull her dreams back off the table. If you want to build an unbreakable bond at this level, you must take a completely different, high value approach. When she opens up about the life she wants to build, do not try to match her or outdo her. Instead, step back and give her your absolute, undivided focus. Ask deeply thoughtful, open ended questions that allow her to expand on her thoughts. Ask her what that specific piece looks like to her, what sparked that sense of purpose inside her, or how she plans to handle the challenges along the way. By steering the focus entirely toward her worldview, you make her feel completely heard, valued, and understood. When you validate her vision through genuine curiosity instead of competitive bragging, you send a powerful, silent signal to her psychology. You prove to her that her future identity genuinely matters to you and that you possess the emotional maturity to support her growth. This creates a massive shift in her emotional state. When a woman realizes that her deepest dreams and highest aspirations are safe with you and that you actually care about the woman she is trying to become, her psychological and emotional attachment to you deepens without any friction or resistance. She stops guessing if you are the right man because her mind has already chosen you to walk beside her. The absolute highest tier of psychological intimacy, the definitive point where a woman's guard completely drops, occurs when she explicitly shares her emotional triggers with you. An emotional trigger is not just a mild annoyance or a bad mood. It is a raw, sensitive psychological wound that instantly causes her to feel hurt, deeply frustrated, or entirely shut down. For most of her life, she has worked incredibly hard to hide these emotional raw spots from the outside world. She wears an armor of self reliance to ensure that no one can spot her weaknesses or catch her off guard. But when her heart belongs to you, she will actively take off that armor and explicitly point out the exact things that pierce through her defenses. This moment is the direct, powerful culmination of all the small micro memories and quiet insecurities she has been steadily revealing to you over time. When she trusts you enough to say, when this specific thing happens, it makes me feel abandoned, or this exact phrasing makes me shut down because of what I went through in my past, she is doing something incredibly profound. By exposing these hidden patterns, she is handing you the literal, step by step emotional blueprint to her heart. She is showing you exactly how to break her and exactly how to heal her. This level of transparency requires an immense amount of courage, and she only does it when she is operating under the absolute, unshakable belief that you are a high value man who will protect this knowledge rather than weaponize it against her during an argument. This is the ultimate test of your masculine maturity. And unfortunately, it is the exact place where the vast majority of men completely fail. When a woman brings up a trigger, or when a trigger is accidentally flipped during an interaction, the average man reacts entirely out of ego. He becomes instantly defensive, takes her reaction personally, or accuses her of being overly dramatic and sensitive. He tries to argue her out of her feelings, shouting that he didn't mean any harm, completely blind to the fact that he is trampling all over her psychological wounds. The moment you use a woman's shared triggers against her or dismiss them as irrelevant, you violate her trust at the deepest possible level. Her psychological defenses will instantly slam shut. A massive wall of resentment will go up, and she may never truly open up her inner world to you again. To build an unbreakable psychological bond that stands the test of time, you must handle her emotional triggers with absolute reverence, profound gentleness, and zero ego. When she reveals a raw spot, your immediate response must be protection, not defense. Drop the need to be right, silence your inner critic, and step into the situation with calm, unshakable maturity. Validate her experience, acknowledge the pain behind the trigger, and show her through your actions that her heart is completely safe in your hands. When a man handles a woman's deepest emotional patterns with this level of strength and emotional security, her mind bonds to him on a biological and psychological level that she cannot easily walk away from.